Well, Donald Trump has filed a statement of organization with the Federal Election Commission announcing the formation of Donald J. Trump for President 2024 committee. The filing says this committee is a principal campaign committee. This is the most desperate filing the Federal Election Commission has ever received. This is the earliest announced presidential candidacy in history. In history. This is announcing more than a year and a half before the very first votes will be cast in any form in Iowa or New Hampshire. This is not about running for president. This is about something else. It is well documented that Donald Trump's first campaign for president was not about becoming president. It was a desperate campaign to increase his fame with no plan or expectation to win anything other than more money as a television performer. Tonight's announcement by Donald Trump that he is a candidate for president again is, like the last time he announced he was running for president, actually about something other than running for president. This is Donald Trump's attempt to run away from prosecutors by running for president. Donald Trump is the very first announced candidate for president in history who is a former president under two federal grand jury criminal investigations and at least one state criminal grand jury investigation in the state of Georgia. That's the candidacy that was announced tonight, the triple grand jury candidacy of Donald Trump. Donald Trump made this announcement at the very moment when the pause is over. The pause is over. There is nothing written in the law about the pause, but it has been a long-standing Justice Department policy to not take any public investigative or prosecutorial actions against a politician during the height of campaign season, which the Justice Department defines as beginning 2 months before Election Day and ending the day after Election Day. That's the pause. And the pause is over. Georgia's Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis observed a similar pause in her criminal investigation of Donald Trump's and others' attempts to falsify the results of the presidential election in Georgia in 2020. Today, District Attorney Fani Willis had Georgia Governor Brian Kemp testify under oath to the special grand jury. The governor's testimony had been delayed during the pause, which is over. Trump White House staffer Cassidy Hutchinson is scheduled to testify tomorrow because the pause is over. She testified to the January 6th committee about Donald Trump's call to Georgia's Secretary of State, trying to convince him to change the vote count in the presidential election.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
The pause is over on that phone call today. It's all over. And that's why Donald Trump ran up to a microphone tonight to desperately announce a candidacy 2 years before an election, the earliest announcement of a presidential candidacy in history, because Donald Trump is being pursued by grand juries. And he is hoping that becoming a candidate will inhibit or prevent Attorney General Merrick Garland from charging Donald Trump with a crime. That is Donald Trump's gamble tonight in announcing a presidential candidacy. Also today, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals announced that it will hear arguments in the appropriately titled case of Donald J. Trump versus United States of America. The Justice Department is appealing the appointment of a special master to oversee the review of documents seized by an FBI search warrant from Donald Trump's Florida residence, the Justice Department has already been successful in all of its appeals to the 11th Circuit to exclude classified documents from the special master's review. And now the Justice Department is asking the appeals court to simply shut down the whole master process completely. On Monday, briefs filed with Special Master Raymond Dearie by both the Justice Department and Donald Trump's legal team were partially unsealed and revealed a lot. The Justice Department filing said that Donald Trump is actually trying to claim executive privilege and a personal privilege at the same time, trying to claim executive privilege for documents that he's also claiming are personal documents. The Justice Department filing says, seeming to recognize that a document cannot both be a personal record and be shielded by executive privilege, plaintiff Trump has indicated that he asserts executive privilege only if the special master rejects his assertion that a document is a personal record and determines that it is a presidential record. That is a shell game, and the special master should not indulge it. In the Trump lawyers' filing, a new defense of Donald Trump has emerged in the case. This is a completely new defense, formally stated defense in writing, saying that the very fact that Donald Trump possessed the documents means that they were, by Donald Trump's definition, personal documents. It also means that they were, by Donald Trump's definition, automatically declassified simply by his choice to possess them and bring them home. The Trump lawyers wrote, "It is the president's designation, not the appearance or content of a given document, that is determinative. President Trump need not put forth documentary evidence of his designation decisions because his conduct unequivocally confirmed that he was treating the materials in question as personal records rather than presidential records. President Trump's classification decision between presidential and personal was made through action. His decision not to supply the records to the National Archives confirms that he treated them as personal records. And to reiterate, President Trump took this course of action while he was in office. And so there you have it tonight. There's the Trump automatic declassification system described in writing by lawyers for the first time. If, while Donald Trump was president, he said, put those classified documents in that box right over there and send that to Florida, that meant that those documents in that instant were automatically declassified.